Hey Wolfpack, this is Dan. I'm here with a special guest, Evelyn Vasquez. She is a part of our SEAL team. She's been helping out all year with the stuff that we've made for you guys. She is a doctoral student at St. Mary's, and she finished year 2 of her 3-year program, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Say hi, Evelyn.
Hi.
She's behind the scenes helping us out. So we're going to talk to you guys about some good topics today.
Excited to see everyone.
So maybe I don't do these cognitive distortions, right?
Mm-hmm.
But so what's the value in me being able to identify when a friend or a brother or a sister, and I see them doing that? Like, what's the value for me being able to identify that?
Well, you can actually help them break out of it. That's typically, right? Like, because even you actually did a really good job in the first one, right? Where you're like, well, here, like, right, like you fact told, like, right? Like they said, no experience needed, this and this, this and this. And like, theoretically, the idea is like, if you force them to kind of like say it in return, like, okay, like, tell me exactly, like, are you unqualified? Like, if you go by paper, are you unqualified? Well, no. Okay, well, give it a shot.
Okay. So like if I can identify in somebody else and I can try to like supportively guide their thinking on kind of like a more logical path, that something that
right.
would
So
work?
theoretically, you could even say, right, like even if you're not the one experiencing it, knowing how to like cope and handle this can help you with the people in your life, right? It's a good social skill to have, honestly. Because, right, there are a lot of people who go down these little trails of, and sometimes it's just helpful to have that one person say, hey, like, that's not true. Like,
yeah, especially because like I would, for me, like if I'm gonna exhibit the cognitive distortions, usually it's when I'm in like a more emotional state, right? And then that's when the person can't really see the distortion, the errors in their thinking. And so I guess, okay, so you're just saying being able to identify that and then, supportively guide the person through like a more logical way of thinking is how you would support them.
You talk them down is literally what it is. It's what we do. It's a CBT technique. As a therapist, you do it. So you're like, okay, well, right now you're all up here and frazzled. So let's kind of like slowly bring you back into like the logic brain, because you're in your feelings brain right now, and just kind of think about, okay, now that like you've come down, because we've kind of forced the brain to start thinking logically again. How do you feel? A little bit better? Oh, yeah, huh? Okay, I'll go do that application now.
Are there any other things that we might want to like share with our students about cognitive distortions, why it's valuable to be able to identify them in ourselves and others, how to handle them, stuff like that?
I guess you could say, like, even if you're not prone to any of these, they come up, right? Like, even if you're not prone, there are definitely moments in our lives where we do doubt ourselves, or we kind of like jump to the conclusion or overgeneralize, because not all of us are perfect, and we will never know what the other person is thinking, because we can't. And just kind of taking a step back and really thinking, okay, how am I making these like thought processes, and are they benefiting me? If not, like, how can I rewire my thinking so that's a little more positive and it will benefit me?
Yeah, and so it's not necessarily like you might not have the habit of doing this all the time, but for the most part, everyone is probably going to do this once in a while in their lives, just depending on what they're going through.
Yeah, exactly. And right, during harder, like more stressful times, it's more likely to happen because your logic brain is kind of like turned off during those times of stress.
Yeah.
So like just knowing how to like snap yourself out of it will help in those like more where you forget yourself.
Yeah, Yeah, one of the things I was thinking too, and you kind of touched on it, was so like just I'm trying to remember like going through high school, like I don't know at what point I realized like I am not my thoughts. You know what I mean? Because I think the people have negative thoughts all the time, right? And I don't know where or at what point in people's lives where like they kind of realize it. I don't know, maybe not everyone always does, but I think just realizing at any point, like, okay, I'm not my thoughts. I'm going to have these thoughts and I don't have to agree with them. Sometimes they just pop up, right?
Yeah. That's like, I think a lot to do with meditation as well, because, right, like there's that whole theory of like, just because that thought has passed through your mind doesn't mean you have to give it any like credence. You just kind of have to let it go, like accept it for what it is, and then just kind of like let it go. Because if you start to really kind of think about it and kind of focus on it and fixate, that's when it starts to really cause issues.
Yeah. And that's why I think like it's been so helpful reading that aware book. It's like and the self-awareness that we've been working on all year, like so we have those thoughts and there's a difference between having a thought and knowing you're having a thought, and then having a thought and being aware that that's the content of your thought and having the choice to say, no, I don't agree with that. Like that's a difference.
Yes. Right? Because a lot of it is this unconscious, like, oh, like I'm having these thoughts and I'm not even realizing that I'm having these thoughts and they're having a negative effect on me. But when you start like recognizing, wait a second, like I'm not okay with this thought and like it's not something that I want in like my head and affecting me. Once I can be aware of it, instead of just letting it linger in the background doing damage, that's where you...
And I think that really helps, because earlier on when I tried to explain why self-awareness was important, it was like, well, I know all the reasons, but I don't know how to explain it. But I think that's probably the thing that makes the most sense now after like thinking about it for months is that's the benefit. Like I could have thoughts and know what my thoughts are, but that's not the same as having thoughts, know what they are, and then being aware that that's what my thoughts are. And then being able to decide if that's what I actually think and feel, or if that's just the thought that flew through my head and that's the one that I don't want. Then I can decide to act on it or to not act on it.
Exactly.
Well, cool. I think we're going to have a sweet lesson.